Good afternoon everybody, welcome into my craft room on what is an absolutely beautiful Friday afternoon here in the New Forest. The sky hasn't got a cloud in it, it's blue, it's sunny and warm, but it's not too hot, it's absolutely perfect. We actually had some rain here. We've had quite a lot of drizzle over the last week, but then the night before last we had heavy rain that lasted from about 1 AM right through to 11ish yesterday. So finally the garden is starting to look slightly less dead. The lawn is greening up very slowly, but it's definitely happening, and the whole thing is looking a lot less dried out. Although sadly the trees are still losing their leaves, which is a bit of a shame. So I'm just going to check on my iPad that I am actually live and make sure that what you can see looks okay. Let's find myself on here. Yeah, and there I am. Good. Okay. So today's subject is two-step stamping, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's stamping your image in 2 stages. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I would also talk a little bit about 3, 4, 5 and 6 step stamping, but don't let that scare you, because we'll come to that, and it's just simply a progression on doing exactly the same as you do for 2-step stamping. But before that, as always, I'm going to give you a few updates. I would love to know what you are up to this weekend. We've got a bank holiday weekend here in the UK. It's our last bank holiday before Christmas. So it will be really nice to get that extra Monday. And so far the forecast is looking pretty good. This country is notorious for wet bank holiday Mondays, but it looks like it might stay dry and mostly sunny and not ridiculously hot. So that will be really, really nice. So things that I need to remember to tell you about. Celebration is ending on August the 31st, which is next Wednesday. So if you've been thinking about putting in an order, make sure you do that before Wednesday to get all your free items. It would be a great shame to miss out on that. I've got a new host code for my online shop, and in a minute when I put the camera down, I will have the host code typed out in big letters there for you, so you can make a note of that. Reminders about booking classes. The October card class, booking for that ends next Friday, so a week today. You've got a week to book that class, whether you'd like to do it in person or whether you'd like to do it by post, where I'll send you out the projects and instructions and photographs. So let me know by next Friday, and if you'd like more information on the class, then just let me know that as well. Emailing me is always the best way. I do try very hard to keep up with my messages on Facebook and Messenger and WhatsApp and everything else, but it's much better for me to have an email, because then it's not going to go anywhere and it's all going to be in the same place. So again, when I put the camera down, my email address will be there for you. So that's October's monthly card class. You make 6 cards in that class, 6 different ones. The Christmas extravaganza information is out. I've emailed it out to everybody on my usual mailing list, and it's also gone in my newsletter. But if you're not on those and you would like to come to an all-day Christmas class with 6 different projects, then let me know. It's an in-person class only, so that's running near Lymington down here in the New Forest. You have until the 9th of September to book for that, so you've got 2 weeks left, pretty much. 2 weeks? Yeah, a bit more than 2 weeks to book for that. So don't miss out on that one. Places are filling up fairly quickly. And finally, the Fancy Fold class for Fancy Fold Cards class, which is always a bit of a mouthful, for October. You have until well into September to book for that, but I am taking bookings now. Let me know by the 23rd of September for that. So Marjorie is saying hello to me and to everyone, and thank you for joining me, Marjorie. You're very welcome indeed. Something else to let you know about is that here in the UK we are about to go into a whole series of postal strikes. In fact, I think the first one, have we had the first one? Was that yesterday? I can't remember. I know I've got them in my diary, but anyway, over the next few weeks we've got 4 days of strike action, which obviously means that no mail is going to be moving. So if I have posted you out anything in that time, it's going to get delayed. And unfortunately, after the strikes, there will also be a delay while they catch up, and they are perfectly timed so that they'll probably just about be catching up, and then there's another strike. So there is unfortunately nothing I can do about that other than send things early if I can. But it is possible that next week's card class by post kits will take a bit longer to get to you than usual as a result of the strikes. I doubt I will be able to send them any earlier than normal, but there isn't a strike next Thursday, which is when I'm due to post them. So fingers crossed. There is a new sweet sampler, and again, when I turn the camera down, I will show you everything that's in that. Now, it is a wintry one. It's a Christmassy or wintry one, and it's not actually attached to any one sweet. What I've done is I wanted to include a lot of the lovely snowy items that we've got, and they're not all in one sweet. They're in a whole variety of sweets. So I'm just calling this one the Snowfall Sampler. So yes, I am talking about Christmas, but by the time you've ordered it, I've ordered all the stuff, prepared it all and posted it out to you. You will be receiving it around about the 3rd week in October. So actually it's not going to be as bad as it seems now, because lots of you I know will be thinking about starting your Christmas cards then. So I'll show you all that in just a minute. I think the only other thing that I need to smile really nicely at you and request that you do is, if you enjoy what I do, please do like and share this on Facebook. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, then do please like it on YouTube. Comment if you can, if you've got something that you'd like to say about the video, and subscribing is always great, because that way YouTube knows that this is the kind of video that people like, and they will show it to other people who might not otherwise see it. And of course the same goes for Facebook. The more comments I get and the more likes and so on, the more people Facebook shows me to, although it has to be said that the the Facebook algorithm is a law unto itself, so who knows how that works. But anyway, it definitely does help me, so if you're able to do that, I'm very grateful. All right, I'm just going to turn the camera down. I'm going to show you the new sweet sampler. I'll also show you the stamp set you get with the Christmas extravaganza, and then we will get on and do some crafting. So bear with me just while I change the settings. Belinda is here, she says hello to everybody, and Maureen is here, she also says hello. So you're both very welcome. Thank you for joining me on this lovely afternoon. Now I'm pleased to say that the mirror image buttons, which is what I need so that everything isn't back to front, is here today. I ran a meeting with my team earlier in the week, and Facebook in their wisdom have changed some of the settings so that that button has now gone, and I could not mirror image my camera at all. So we managed, but it was very frustrating, and I did check here earlier just to make sure that button was still there, and it was, and they haven't got rid of it in the meantime. So thank goodness for that. Let me just see if I can get just a little bit more of my grid paper on here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. No, all I'm giving you is more of my desk, aren't I? Maybe I need to go the other way. You know me. My spatial awareness is not good. I can never work out which way to turn things. And of course, everything for me has been mirror imaged because I've just triggered those switches, which means that although it probably looks very obvious to you which way I should turn things, unfortunately from my end, it isn't. Okay, so I've tried something else on my cable. Let's see if that works a little bit better than the washi tape did. It's not very straight still, are we? Let's see what I can do about that. That's probably the wrong way. But meanwhile, here is my email address, handmade@hotmail.co.uk. That's the wrong way, isn't it? Let's try it the other way. And the current host code, if you're ordering online and you're ordering more than £35 worth of goodies, then this is the new host code. That means I'll send you a little something in the post next month. Okay, so I'm going to move those. The first thing I'm going to show you is the stamp set that comes with the All Day Christmas class, which is this one. It's in the July to December mini catalogue. It's called Brightest Glow. I usually include a stamp set with images, but this year I thought it would be nice to include a sentiment set because, you know, you can never have too many sets of words for your Christmas cards. So this one is included, you'll use it on the day, and it's yours to take home as well. If you've got it already, you can always choose an alternative, so that's not a problem. And if you would like the coordinating dies, then you can get those at the bundle price. So that will all be in the information I can send out. So just email me if you'd like information on that all-day Christmas class. And the last thing I'm going to show you is what I'm calling the Snowfall Sampler. So these things are just so pretty. So once again, I have split up packs of stuff, so you don't have to have whole packs of everything, and that means that you can have a big selection of lots of things. All right, so there's card in here. You have 2 sheets of thick basic white, so this is a good weight for your card bases. Then I've given you 3 blues. There's a Pool Party, Starry Sky, and Balmy Blue, and then 2 sheets of standard weight basic white as well. So this is great for stamping on, and we have lots of lovely stamp sets with snowflakes on and images that are going to look great with these colours. So you'll also get a 1/4 pack of the velvet sheets, which is like this. So this is 6 inches by 12 inches, and obviously you can't feel what I'm feeling, but it does feel like velvet, very short pile velvet. It's got a lovely feel to it. It's great for anything snowy, snowmen. If you've got snowman dies, snowflake dies are beautiful cut out with this, and it adds really nice texture to your projects. You'll get a 1/4 pack of the snowflake vellum, which is really beautiful. I don't know how well this will show up on camera. Hopefully it'll show up well. There are 6 different patterns here, so you're getting a 6-inch square piece of each. Now 3 of them have the velvet finish on them. So there are 2 with snowflakes. One is a kind of an all-over snowflake, and one is, and I'm trying to, when they're cut smaller it's slightly harder to see. I think this is the ordered snowflake. They're kind of more in a grid pattern. This one is slightly more random, and then this one, actually let me just, there we go, let me show them separately. I don't think when I pile them up you can see the one underneath, can you? And then this one, which is like snowflakes. It's dotty all over, but actually this would work for all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be snow, it can just be polka dots. And some of these snowflakes, if I just lift them up for you to see, you could actually cut these out if you wanted and just have the velvet snowflakes. You know, some of them would be fairly straightforward to cut out. And then you have those same patterns but in iridescent foiling. So we have the snowflakes, and let me just tilt that, see if I can get it to catch the light. It's silver, but it's definitely got pink and green and kind of golden tones on it. It's very pretty. This is the other snowflake pattern, and then the one here with the dots. This one I really love. This would be fantastic on birthday cards as well as your festive projects. All right, you're also going to get a 1/4 pack of what are called wonderful snowflakes, which are these. These are die cut. They're quite big. Let me just measure them approximately. They're about 2.5 inches across. Once again, they are iridescent, very, very detailed. So you can just pop them out and then glue them onto your projects. This little section in the middle here is fractionally bigger than a dimensional, so you can pop a dimensional in the middle there to hold them in place if you wish, and it won't show. You can also sacrifice one and use it as a stencil. It'll be reusable, but then you can daub or spritz ink around it for backgrounds. So you get a sheet of those. You'll get a 1/4 reel of this metallic mesh ribbon, which is lovely. You can see if I just lay it on my hand, it's very delicate. It's like gossamer, and there are clear threads and silver threads, and the clear threads disappear when you lay it down on something, and you can just see the silver threads. It ties in bows beautifully. You can kind of scrumple it up. You can also snip zigzags into it and end up with little jagged pieces to lay behind things. It's lovely, lovely ribbon. You'll also get 1/4 of a reel of this iridescent trim. So this is a little bit tinsely. It's not as spiky as tinsel, and it doesn't shed like tinsel does either. Hoping you can see the light catching that. Again, if I lay it over my hand, you can kind of get an idea of the texture. So this will tie beautifully. It will be gorgeous around parcels or bags or boxes, but you can also tie it around cards or just lay pieces of it down. And it would be fun trimming if you stamp, say, a Father Christmas. You could pop a piece of this around his cuffs, things like that. So it's fluffy and lovely. And then finally, 3 of these Stars Treat bags. So these are lovely. They are die cut. The height of them is 5 1/4 inches, and they are 3.5 inches across there. So they have a zigzag top. They're made of really, really thick paper. In fact, it's card really rather than paper. They're very sturdy. And I wonder if I can just pop my index card in. No, that's a little bit wide, but we'll see what we can do. There we go. You can see that there is a cutout star pattern, so you can lay behind this anything you fancy. Some foiling, some coloured card, anything at all, and it will show through. So that's one idea. You could stamp stars or snowflakes on here. You could spritz it with ink. And the other thing that occurs to me is that it would be really lovely with a battery tea light inside as one of those little lumiere lanterns. They'd be very pretty on your Christmas table. If it's a dry night, they'd even be pretty lining a path with the little lights in them, or maybe on windowsills as you go up the stairs. And of course, they make really beautiful gift packaging. They'd be beautiful on your Christmas table or at parties. So you get 3 of those. And of course, once you've used everything, whatever you like the best, you can just order more of. But this gives you a chance to try it all out. So I think this is quite a kind of a bumper bonus sampler this month. Let me pop the information down there. I know sometimes people like to screenshot it. So as always, I have worked out what the cost of the individual bits and pieces are from the pack costs, and then I've rounded it up. Once I've added everything up, rounded it up to the nearest pound. So that little lot will be £14 if you can collect it from me. And if you'd like me to post it out to you, I can absolutely do that, and that will cost you £16.50. So Belinda is saying it's great for Cloud 2, useful beyond Christmas Project 2. So are you talking about, I bet you're talking about the velvet paper, Belinda, am I right? Just seen your comment saying that it's great for clouds. I reckon you're talking about the velvet paper. Yeah, it is. It's really, really nice. It feels just gorgeous. Right, let me slide these back in here so they don't get dirty, because being white, you have to be just a little bit careful. Okay, I'll stand that out of the way. And let's talk about today's subject, which is two-step stamping. So, in case you don't know anything at all about two-step stamping, we have lots of sets of stamps in the catalogue with two-step stamping. What that means is that your finished image is made up of 2 parts, and actually sometimes it's 3-step stamping or 4-step stamping. So I've got here Hydrangea Haven, so you've got these beautiful hydrangea images, and you have an outline, and then you have a shading here. So you can stamp them with 1 step for the outline, and then your second step is the shading. So I'm just going to quickly do that just to show you how they come together. Got some ink pads in my basket here somewhere. You wouldn't believe the amount of stuff I've got out here on my desk. Okay. So I'm going to stamp these in not necessarily the same colours that you would choose, but I am going to make a card with these in a minute. But I'm just going to try and make it easy for you to see. So
I'm going to use the outline stamp there, and I'm going to stamp this in. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to use was going to use Highland Heather. I think I'm actually going to pick out a darker colour. Let me just pull over my other ink pads. Go. I've just dropped everything on the floor. Bear with me. Right, and just remember to clean that stamp before I use it, because it's definitely fluffy. So Belinda's saying yes, the velvet paper is great for clouds, so it's useful for things way beyond Christmas. Right, so this is my outline image, and I'm just going to ink that up and stamp it. And I've got a foam mat underneath my card because these are photopolymer stamps, so they have no cushioning of their own, and putting ideally a foam mat, but if you haven't got one of those, then a couple of old magazines will add you just a little bit of softness, so you get a really good impression. So there is my hydrangea image. Now actually that is beautiful on its own, and of course you can stamp it and then colour it in with watercolour pencils or stamping blends or anything else you fancy. However, for the two-step bit, I'm now going to pick a different colour of ink, and I'm going to stamp the part that colours that in, which is this image here. Now on two-step stamping, you will very often find that the images are designed to coordinate but not match exactly, which makes life much easier, so I don't have to work out where the little wiggles in this image fit the little wiggles in my outline. It will just cover that area whichever way round I'm holding this stamp. So I'm just going to look through, because it's a photopolymer stamp, you can see exactly what's underneath, and then I'm going to stamp on top. And you can now see that I've added colour to that flower just with a stamp. So although some people think that two-step stamping sounds complicated, it's not. All you're doing is stamping. You're just stamping one image on top of another. If I now bring in the leaf stamp, I'll colour in that stem as well. What have I got here? Pear. This is Pear Pizzazz. So I stamped in Night of Navy. I stamped the flower solid image in Balmy Blue. And I'm now going to stamp this leaf and stem image in Pear Pizzazz. So again, I'm going to get my head right over the top. Apologies if you get my hair. I'm just looking through the stamp, and on this one, again, it doesn't 100% line up. The leaf shading is slightly larger than the leaf outline, but I am trying to line up my stem, and it lines up pretty easily. So there we are. So I now have an outline image that's already coloured in. So that, in a nutshell, that is two-step stamping. Now, you don't have to use two different colours. Let's say I'd only got one blue. I could stamp my outline in blue, and then I could stamp my solid image in the same colour but stamped off. So let me just show you what I mean. So if I use my navy ink again, stamp that outline. Alright, and I'm going to clean that solid flower image just so I don't contaminate my ink pads. And I'll now ink it up with the same blue Night of Navy. If I stamp that over the top, I'm not going to be able to see the outline because this is still a very deep colour, but if I stamp it off, that removes a lot of the ink. And now if I stamp it on, I can see my outline through there. Okay, so that is two-step stamping. So let's actually make something. I'll leave my mat there, which I'm going to need in a minute. Let me clean those stamps because I am going to need those, but I'm using different colours. Now, do you want to see the card first or do you want to be surprised? Let me know. Marjorie's saying a surprise. What does anybody else think? Okay, nobody else is saying anything, so I think I'm going to go with surprise. All right, so I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, I'll give you the measurements in just a minute because I know a lot of you do like to have the measurements, but the first thing I want to do is I want to actually spatter some ink on this, and it needs a minute or two just to dry off. So I've got a couple of clear blocks here which I'm just going to use as palettes, and I'm just going to press them into my ink pad. So that one is Highland Heather and this one is Army Blue. So I've just put some ink on there. I could have used some re-inker if I'd preferred, and I've just realised that I haven't pulled out any kitchen paper. Right, bear with me, I'm just going to reach across and grab some kitchen paper. It was right there, but on the windowsill, and I couldn't quite reach, and you've all watched me reach across my desk before now and forget that I'm attached with a wire and pull everything down. So I was trying not to do that. Okay, and I'm just putting down a bit of precautionary paper just because this can spread a little bit. So I've got my two palettes here with two colours of ink. I'm going to add a drop or two of water out of my water painter. So that's got the reservoir of water in the barrel. Mix that up just to make some watery ink, and then I'll lay down my card, and I'm just going to tap this just to spatter the ink like that. So that one is done, and then because I want two distinct colours, I'm just going to make sure I get rid of all the purple ink from the brush before I do the same again with the blue. So I'm just squeezing the barrel. That flushes the bristles with fresh water. You can of course take it to the tap and just run it under that, but I don't want to be going off and doing that in the middle of this. There we go. So I'll just mix that water into the ink, load the bristles. I'm going to hold this vertical because that will give me better shaped dots. It's tempting to hold it like this, and that will work, but I quite often find that I get kind of long streaks that way rather than dots. There we go. So let me show you that. So I'm just going to set that aside. That isn't going to take very long to dry. But while I'm waiting, I'm also going to do the same with the piece that I want for my insert. So I'll carry on with blue because that's what I've got on my bristles. That. Let me just wipe the extra off there. Then I'm going to clean off those bristles just as you saw me do before I move back to my purple. Pick up some purple, hold it vertical and tap. There we are, a little bit more. Okay. So So I'm also just going to clean that, otherwise that purple ink will work its way up the bristles and then into the barrel, and I shall have purple ink in my reservoir, which certainly at the moment I do not want. Alright, so that's that. So that's the messy stuff done. Alright, let me pop you down some measurements. So I'm making a larger card. So my card base, which is Highland Heather, is 10 inches by 7, and I've scored it at 5 inches, which gives me a 5 by 7 card blank. Then I have a layer of Balmy Blue card, which is 4 inches by 6 inches, and I've put this through that embossing folder that I can never remember the name of. Hang on, I want to say Time Worn Type, and I'm not sure if that's right or if that's a retired one. Let me find it in here. It is Time Worn Type, which is a beautiful embossing folder. It's got a kind of a distressed look to it. Then I have an Old Olive layer. This is 3.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Then the white layer, which is going to be stamped, and that's the one I've just spattered, which is 3 inches by 4.5. And then my insert is just 1/4 inch smaller all round than the card base. And that's also the one I just spattered, and that's 4 3/4 inches by 6 3/4 inch. So there you go, that's all your measurements. Alright, so what shall I do first? I'm going to do some stamping around the edge of this piece. So it's Old Olive card. And I'm just going to add some background detail to it. So this is Old Olive ink, and the image I'm using from the stamp set is this little floral one here. So this does have a solid image that works with it for your two-step stamping, but I'm just using it as an outline. And all I'm doing is just going around the edge here. Now my stamped card is going to go over the top of this, so I don't need to worry about doing the middle because the whole thing is going to be covered up. And the image has got a broken edge to it. It's not a regular shape, which means that you can sort of twist and turn it to fit it into odd corners like that. I think I probably need a little bit more there and a little bit more there. So that looks like that. What I am going to do though is put my piece of white card on top, and I'm going to end up with it kind of across like that. So I can see from that that all that card is covered by the image. I don't have any gaps that I need to add a bit more to. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with my card base with the same image. So let me clean that, because I'm going to use the same colour ink as my card again, which is in this case Highland Heather. So let's bring in my card base. I wasn't actually using my stamping mat, was I? I got away with it because it's quite a small image, but I am going to bring in the stamping mat, pop it underneath because it's going to get inky, because I'm going to be stamping off the edge of my card. Here we go. So Highland Heather ink. And this just adds a little bit of extra interest. And I think when you've got a large card in particular, it's nice to have lots of little details on it. You've got the space, so why not add that? If you don't have the same ink colour as your card, then you can of course go with a different one. I could have gone with a darker ink, or if you've got Versamark, then remember that you can always use Versamark on your card and it will give you almost like a watermark effect. So it will look as if you're using an ink that is the same colour as your card. So if you don't have all the ink colours, definitely get a Versamark, because you can do this and it will look very similar. So I'm inking my stamp every single time, otherwise I'll have variations in the colour of the ink. And again, the centre of my card is going to be covered, so I'm not worrying too much about the middle. I've got a bit of a hole there, let's pop that in there. So the first thing to do is to find my next layer and pop that on. So I've come far enough into the middle, but I can see I've got a few little gaps here on the edge. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit there. Right, I think that is done. Okay, so my card is coming together. I've managed to, you see I've got inky fingers, I've got a smudge there. I'm sure we can cover that up when we add the next layer, so I'm not going to stress too much about that. All right, so that's going to go like that. If I can find it, there we go. That's my old olive layer. Yeah, I think we're going to manage to cover up that inky smudge, so that's going to go there. So now we need to work on that stamped layer. So you remember I did the spattering on that. That's now dry because it's really warm this afternoon. I haven't had to wait for that. And I'm now going to stamp this large hydrangea image that you saw me playing with earlier. I'm going to stamp this now, and I'm going to show you a little trick for this. This is, if I can find the box, it's a flower and a leaf stem all on one image. And I would actually like to stamp my flower in one colour and my leaves in a different colour for this. And because it's quite a large stamp and the areas in between what I want to be green and what I want to be purple are quite defined, I can actually do that just using my ink pad. You can always ink up a stamp using a sponge dauber, but I can also use my ink pad. So I'm just going to lay this stamp across. I wonder if I can hold it up and try and show you, so that the edge of the ink pad is along the edge of where that flower is, like that. So I'm not covering over the leaves, and I'm just going to ink it like that, quite carefully. A few taps. There we are. I don't think, no, you can't really see that, but believe me, you'll see in a minute when I stamp. And then I'm going to bring in my old olive ink pad and do exactly the same, but this time for the leaves. And because it's a photopolymer stamp, I can see exactly where those parts of the stamp are. There we are. And then because that purple ink's been sitting there a little while, I'm just going to breathe on it just to reactivate that ink. So the moisture in my breath will reactivate that. There we are. And that is my stamp image in two colours. So this is my step one, this is my outline. So I'll now bring in that solid image, which I did clean, but it doesn't look like, at least I thought I cleaned it, perhaps I missed it. It's certainly, I can see it's got quite a lot of dark blue ink on it, so let's correct that. And you know what hydrangea flowers are like. Depends on the acidity of the soil, I think, as to whether they end up blue or purple or pink. But I quite like my solid image to be a mixture of blue and purple. So I've got balmy blue ink, I've got Highland Heather ink, and I've got two sponge daubers here, and I'm just going to apply the ink this time using the sponge dauber by just tapping it on the ink pad and then tapping across my stamp. So I'll now do some purple, so Highland Heather. And before I go back to my purple ink pad, I'm just going to rub off any excess, just in case I've picked up any blue along the way. And then I just need to have a look at that. There's a little bit there I've missed. You won't be able to see, I don't suppose, but I can see which bits have been inked. All right, so that's inked up that stamp. So this is a second way that you can get more than one colour on your stamp. I'll breathe on it again and then stamp over the top of that outline image. And you can see I've got two colours there. So that's my flower coloured in. The last thing I need to do is to colour in the leaves. And this time I'm going to use a lighter colour of ink. I could use Old Olive, stamp it off and then stamp on here, but I'm just going to use a different colour this time. This is Pear Pizzazz, so this is a lighter green. So again, I'm just going to look all the way over the top, line this up as well as I can, and then stamp down just to colour in that stamp. Now that will lighten up considerably as that green ink dries. I'm going to very quickly clean off my stamps, because you know what I'm like. I will lean all over them with my arm, and then I will lean on some white card, and yeah, not good. Let's not do that. Okay, hello Mary. Mary says she's late today. Visiting family, just gone to the beach. I'm assuming your family is visiting and they've gone to the beach. Is that right, Mary? I know that you had family who were coming to visit. I hope you've had a nice time. They've certainly got a lovely day for the beach, and you've got a little bit of peace and quiet to watch some crafting. All right, and I'm just going to stamp some words on here. I'm making a thank you card. As you know, I often in these sessions make thank you cards because I always need them to send out to my lovely customers. So if you place an order with me, you might get this one, who knows. So I've just stamped thank you on there. So that image is from Peaceful Moments, which you've seen me use loads of times. It's a really useful set. It's got all the sentiments you'll ever need in there. Right, so now I think we can start to actually build this card up. I think my glue is going to be runny today because it's really warm in here, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. Because this is embossed, I'm adding more glue than I would normally, because the back of it is not flat. The back of it has got little divots in it which won't pick up the glue, so I need a little bit more glue on the areas that will. So what I need to do now is make sure I cover up that inky fingerprint, which is just here, with this layer. Unfortunately, although I was careless with my inky fingerprint, it did go somewhere that I can cover up. And then pop my stamped piece on top, slightly off center, or at least it looks off center. It's not really, it's just that the green one is crooked. So Mary's saying yes, welcome Peace. 3 children, 1 dog and 2 adults. It's lovely having them with her, but she's not used to the noise. I bet, Mary. Well, enjoy it while you can. No doubt they will be back later needing to be fed. So that is my card front, but it needed a little something. So there's a couple of things I'm going to do. There are some dies which coordinate with the Hydrangea stamp set, the Hydrangea dies, and they cut out some of the stamped images. There's also a really nice label and a really nice little tag here.
But there's also this long die which cuts out lots of little tiny flowers, little hydrangea flowers. So I pre-cut those just to save a little bit of time, and they're on my desk somewhere. I saw them when I unpacked everything. There they are. So I've cut some in Highland Heather card, and I have cut some in vellum. I should have tipped those onto here, shouldn't I? That would have been a bit more sensible. Here we go. Let's pop them on my insert. I'm hoping you can see the vellum ones. So our vellum cardstock is really a good heavy weight, so you can die cut out of it and things don't break or tear. So I'm going to set this aside for a minute, bring in my foam mat, and I'm just going to shape these. So I've got my take your pick tool, and I've got the scoring tool in one end, and I've got the larger end. If I just show you, it's got two ends. That's a small ball and this is a larger one, and I want the larger one for this. So I'm just going to spread these out. The die does put some embossing on them, so I'm going to make sure they're up the right way, and then I'm just going to push that tool into the center of each one, which will make them into a little cup shape. It's very, very quick, much easier than trying to shape them in your fingers. So I'll do a couple and lift it up and show you like that, so you can see the difference. So I'm literally, I haven't got much to push on here. I'll try, make sure that you can see. I'm just going to put it on there and push down, put it in the middle and push down. So let's just do those others. As I say, very, very quick to do, and it just provides some nice shape. Now, admittedly, when this goes through the post, it will lose a little bit of the shape it's got now, but it won't be completely flat when it arrives. And of course, if you're giving it by hand, it will probably be absolutely fine. And then I'm going to stick some of these on here. You can see from the outline image I stamped in purple right at the beginning that there are lots of little solid flowers that you can distinctly see, but I'm not going to try and just stick one of my cut out flowers onto one of those. I'm just going to stick them down fairly at random, and what I usually do is I put on some dots of glue, fairly well spaced like that, and then I will start adding the flowers, one flower per dot of glue, and I make some of them the card flowers and some of them the vellum ones in no particular order. And then I can push them down with my take your pick tool just to make sure that they are firmly on that glue. So I'm trying not to put all the purple ones together and all the vellum ones together, but equally I'm trying to also not deliberately alternate them exactly. So I'm trying to get more of a random feel to it. You can use tweezers if you find these are a little bit too fiddly. You can add just a few of these, or you can add quite a lot. So I'm putting my little glue dots, I suppose they're about ½ an inch apart from each other. And yes, I am covering up some of that stamping, but I really like the look and the feel this gives. There's a lot of texture on there, and I've got my double layer of ink, then I've got these little punched out flowers, and I just really like that. Ooh, that one stuck to my fingers. And if you've used vellum before, you will know that
glue tends to show through it, but I do have a disguise for that in a moment. You could choose, I could have chosen Balmy Blue and Highland Heather card and not used the vellum. But I quite like the way that gives us sort of an airy look and feel to it. I've definitely got glue on my fingers because these little flowers are sticking to my hands. There we are. That glue will set up quickly. It dries a little bit slower on the vellum. I'm just making sure each one has been, yeah, those first ones have really attached themselves. So let me lift that up and show you. Katie's saying, what about some purple pearls? They would be lovely, Katie. I don't have any of the purple pearls that are in the catalogue, although I could colour some in with my Stampin' Blends marker, couldn't I? But actually, what I've dug out of my stash are rhinestones. So what I am going to do is colour some rhinestones. So I've got my dark Highland Heather Stampin' Blends marker here. Because this is an alcohol ink marker, it will colour the rhinestones and the colour will stay on them, it won't wipe off. So it's like a permanent marker. I don't know how many I'm going to need. Let me have a look. And it's only a hint of purple. Let me put it on some white card. So these are the purple ones and these are the ones as they come out the pack. I can see it. I don't know how well that's coming up on the camera, but it just tones them in. So let me count how many of these little flowers I've got. About 20. So I'm going to need to colour just a few more of these and then I'll pop them on there. I might need one or two more. But if you've got the purple pearls, as Katie suggests, they would be lovely. And actually I just realised that I've counted all my little flowers. I'm not actually going to put a rhinestone into every single flower. I'm just going to add them to the vellum ones. You could add them to everything, but I felt that might be overkill on the bling front. But I don't mind having a few extra purple ones. I can use that on something else. There we are. So I can't see the glue through that vellum at all now because the rhinestones have cunningly hidden it. And then while I've got my marker out, I am also going to create some matching ribbon. So this is the white crinkled seam binding ribbon, which I love because I can make it any colour I like. So I'm just dragging that brush tip across the ribbon. It dries almost immediately. And then I can tie a bow which coordinates perfectly with my card. You obviously want something to protect your worktop when you're doing this because I'm going over the edges. Okay, so that's my ribbon. Because this is very fine ribbon, it's coloured both sides. I don't have to do the second one. Katie 7, you never overkill bling. You're probably right actually, Katie. Alright, so I'm going to tie one of my double bows. So you've seen me do this before. I'm not going to go too slowly because I've got an eye on the clock. But it's basically a double bow tied over your finger. I have done this lots of times with you, and it's a lovely way to tie a bow. There we go, I've got hold of that end at the back, and then I just tuck it under the wrap to knot it. Okay, so I've now got a double looped bow. I'll trim the ribbon ends and add that to my card. So I just need a glue dot for that. So there's my bow. Katie says she loves where I've tied the bow. She's not seen it before. Would you like me to do it again slowly, Katie? I said I wasn't going to, but if you haven't seen me do that before, I could do it again slowly for you if you like. It's really very straightforward once you know how to do it. And I'm going to try and find my insert. Oh, I think it's here, isn't it? Because I was laying something on it. So I've got my spatter on there already. And all I'm going to do is bring in my Highland Heather ink pad. That little flower stamp that I went round the edges on here with, bring that one back, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the insert at the bottom. So Katie's saying, yes please, right, I'll finish off this card and then I'll show you, Katie, and thank you, I'm glad you like it. So I'm just using this just to edge along here on the inside. And if I was making a birthday card, I would stamp words in there, but because it's a thank you card, I'm going to leave the inside blank. Belinda says that ribbon, the crinkled seam binding ribbon, is her favourite. She's got lots. Yes, me too, Belinda. I never like to go below 2 reels of it. And she says it's brilliant for the double bows. Yes, it is, because it's really soft and easy to manipulate. I'll show you how to tie this in just a second. So that's my insert. And if I lift it up a bit more, I hope, sometimes the focus goes when I come too close, but I hope you can see the spatter on there. And then that is the front of the card. And I have a second version of this which I will show you, just so you can see that you can do a little bit more if you want to, which is here. So this one I used some distressing techniques on. So let me lift up the two, try and get at least some of each one in at the same time. So I've inked the edges of all the layers on this one, and before I inked them I also used the blades of my scissors to distress the card edges. And you can probably see when you then ink the edges, the I'm trying to think what's the word I want, the fibres of the paper where you've used your scissors on them, they've split, so they take up more of the ink, so you actually end up with a dark edge to your card. So I did that with these 3 layers. I didn't on the base card, I just inked the edges. And let me show you very quickly the easiest way to ink the edges of card. In classes I often see people lay down the card and they've got their sponge dauber and they've put some ink on it and they're going along like this, which seems like a good idea at the time, but it's very easy to end up with dots. Now actually you can make a beautiful scalloped border that way if you want to, but if you just want the edges of your card inked, the easiest way is to hold the card up from your table in your hand, and then with your inked sponge dauber just scrape it vertically down the side of your card like that. You get a lovely irregular finish and you don't get any I'm just trying to find a bit of white card to lay this on so I can lift it up and show you. You don't get the scalloping or the shapes that you do otherwise. There we go. And move that forward. I never get it in the right place first time, do I? There we go, that's better. Okay, right, so let me show you how to tie that bow. Belinda says she keeps about 6 reels of that, that ribbon. I'm glad you like those colours, Mary. This is a favourite of mine, this Highland Heather. I really do like it. You see, have I got a bit of ribbon in here that will work? This is my ribbon oddments jar. Let's see if that will. Is that long enough? Yes, that'll do. All right, so how to tie a double looped bow. So you want a piece of ribbon, you have to cut it from the reel. If you've got, quite often when I'm tying bows, I leave one end attached to the reel, because then when I've cut off the end at the length I want, I haven't wasted anything because it's still attached to the reel. But for this you need a separate piece. And the size of your bow across from one side to the other is determined by how far apart you hold your fingers. So I'm right-handed, so this is my left hand, my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to hold one end of the ribbon between my thumb and my middle finger and leaving a little bit hanging down. And then I'm going to position my fingers so that the distance between the top of my index finger and the bottom of my middle finger is the same distance I want across my bow. So that will determine my bow size. So I can have a really big one or I can have a really small one. So let's go for a kind of a medium one here. So this is the long end of my ribbon. This is going to be the working end, and it goes over the top of my index finger, between my fingers, around the bottom of my middle finger, and now I have a loop on that finger and a loop on this finger. Then I'm going to repeat that over my index finger, between my fingers, around my middle finger. So I've now got 2 loops on each finger. And then if I wanted, I could actually carry on. I could make a triple looped bow by looping that again, or a quadruple looped bow, but I don't have enough ribbon for that. So we're just going to stick with 2. So then I bring the ribbon end back up between my fingers, cross it over the middle, and this is the only slightly tricky bit, push it down there. So it's crossed over and gone between my fingers to the back. And then I bring it back round between my fingers, and I'm going to tuck this loose end under that wrap, and that's what makes the knot in the center of the bow, like that. So I'm hoping you could see that, and with my talking it through, I'm hoping that will also help. You can always rewind and watch this again. There we go. And so that is my double looped bow. It's as easy as that. And I've tied these in all kinds of different ribbon and thread, and they're just beautiful. They just look so lovely. You're very welcome, Katie. I shall expect to see those on all your projects now. Now, I'm looking at the time. We are already 3 o'clock. Can you believe it? So I am going to carry on just a little bit over time, but I will be a little bit quicker on what I was going to do next. So I also said that I would show you something using the Pansy Petal stamp set. Pansy Patch, which is this stamp set. Now this works on exactly the same principle as the Hydrangea set I showed you with the 2-step stamping, except you've got more than 2 steps. So this is a stepped out one I showed you. So with this, the images that you can stamp on top of each other, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the large pansy, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the small pansy, and then there's like a long leaf and a round leaf. There are 2 for each of those, and the bud has 1, 2, 3, but it works in exactly the same way. So I will stamp one out and then I will show you a finished project, but I won't actually make a project because otherwise we are going to go well over time. So let me just pull out the stamps I have here and the ink pads. So I'll show you a pansy and I'll show you a leaf. There we are. Sorry for all the banging and crashing. As usual, I'm working in a tiny little bit of my desk because I've got stuff everywhere. All right, let's make a little bit more space than that. Okay, so I'll show you the card that I made and then I'll show you how I stamped the pansy. So the sending birthday wishes part is from the Sending Smiles stamp set. So this has a large stamp which says sending, and then it has a whole selection of different things you can add to that. So sending smiles across the miles, sending love and big hugs, sending birthday wishes, sending a note of thanks, and so on. So in a sense that's two-step stamping as well. Although you're stamping the images and they don't overlap, they do definitely belong together. And the images, the flower images in this set are also two-step stamping because you have stems and then you have separate flower heads, so you can mix and match those, and then you have flower centers as well, so they're all on individual stamps, so it's kind of two-step stamping as well. But anyway, that's an aside. So if I lift this up, you can see that my little pansies, I picked the smaller flower. They have a yellow background and then they've got brown edging, and in the center a very dark eye, and then my leaves are also two-toned. So let me stamp the leaves first because that is two-step stamping. So this ink pad is Granny Apple Green, and I'm actually going to stamp, if I show you these, they've got like detail, which is a smaller image, and then the shading is a larger image. I'm going to stamp the detail first because that's going to be a darker colour, and it's actually going to be easier to see that dark colour through the second stamp because it's darker. If I stamped my pale colour first, then I'm trying to see where the pale colour is as I sight through to do the second image. So I've just stamped this off. This is the same colour, Granny Apple Green, and I've stamped off on my grid paper. And now I'm just going to look over the top. Because those veins are darker, they're very easy to see through the ink on the stamp. And I just stamp over the top. I could have used a light green and a dark green, but I'm just using the same one just to show you that it can be really effective. So that's the leaf, and the round leaf works exactly the same. I'll stamp the veins, then I'll stamp off in the same colour. Oh, not that one, the other one, there we go. The solid image, stamp it off once. And then stamp. So that's the two leaves. And you can die cut these as well if you have the dies. It's a lovely set. I used it such a lot last year, and then I kind of rediscovered it on my shelf. I've been playing with new toys, but it's nice to use it again. All right then, so for the flower, I'm going to do the same again in terms of dark and light colours, stamping the dark one first. So if I stamp my solid image in that pale yellow first, it's actually quite hard to see when I'm hovering my next stamp over the top. So instead I'm going to stamp that dark outline first. It doesn't actually matter which order you stamp things in. And then I'm going to bring in my yellow. So that is soft suede. It will dry a lot lighter. It looks very dark there, but it will dry lighter. So then with So Saffron, which is this pale yellow, I've inked my solid stamp, and I don't know if I can show you that. I can easily see that dark outline through the stamp. I've got to wait for my iPad to catch up so I can see what you can see. Yeah. So that's really easy to see through the stamp. So now I can colour in my flower like that. And then over the top of that, coming back to soft suede, I'm going to stamp the little patterning in the centre. And again, looking through the stamp, I can line it up really easily. This pansy has a little triangular part in the center which is not inked until the very last stage. So by sighting that, if I keep that in line with all the stamps, then everything lines up beautifully. And then finally, I'm going to stamp that little center part, and it's probably the smallest stamp I have ever owned. This is the stamp, tiny, tiny. So this is Early Espresso, and I just have to get it the right way round. So the flat part of the triangle goes at the bottom and the point goes at the top. And that is my little eye in the center of the pansy. So that was a 4-step stamped image, but as you can see, it's no harder than if it was only 2. And when you layer them up, you get this beautiful effect. I really like this card. I think I'm going to make some more of these. And of course, you know how many colours that pansies come in. You've only got to Google pansy colours and you'll be able to make every card look different, even though it's the same stamped images. So there we go, 2-step stamping. I hope you will try it if you haven't already. If you've been looking at your stamps and thinking, I'm not sure I can do that, I hope that I have made it seem a bit more straightforward. You can use different colours, or you can use the same colour and just use your Stampin' Off to give you different variations in tone. Stamp a dark image first, so whatever is darkest, stamp that first, or your mid one, and then stamp your lighter images over the top, because that will be so much easier to line everything up. And remember that many of the 2-step stamp sets do not require you to line up your images exactly. Approximately will do beautifully. Alright, I'm just going to turn the camera back up so I can say a proper goodbye to you. I'll cover you over just in case you suffer with motion sickness. Hopefully that is yes, and I'm up the right way. The button is working. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Remember that if you can like and share this, that really does help me out, and I will look forward to spending time with you next Friday at 2 o'clock. Next week I've got an inky technique to share with you involving mixing inks and adding inks to our card, stamping into mixed ink, and so on. So I think we're going to have some fun next week. I hope you'll have time to come and join me at 2 o'clock. Have a lovely weekend. If you're in the UK and you're going to have a bank holiday weekend, I hope you have a fantastic time, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.